Welcome to the Advancing Entrepreneur. This show is all about surrounding yourself for success. Hear stories of building traction, gaining acceleration, and creating results from successful entrepreneurs who have surrounded themselves with other successful entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Annette Nightingale-James.
Good morning, entrepreneurs. It's Annette Nightingale-James back with you today for another episode of the Advancing Entrepreneur, where we help you get traction, acceleration, and results in your business. I'm joined this morning by my friend and fellow podcaster, Marc Mawhinney. Thank you so much for joining us, Marc.
Hi, Annette. Thanks for having me.
So very good. Did I get the pronunciation right?
You did very well for one of your first times saying it. I've heard a lot worse.
Very good. So I got a little nervous for a second, but good. Okay, we got it. All right, very good. Marc is a lifelong entrepreneur with a passion and specialty in helping other coaches grow successful businesses by defining their target markets, implementing strategies to better manage their time, and make more sales. Marc, tell us a little bit more about you and the business.
I'll give you a really brief overview because I don't think your audience has about 10 or 12 hours to go over everything with my journey. Like you mentioned, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. It's in my blood. So I've known that for a long time. I got started in business at about 21 years old in real estate, and that's where my background is. I'm a tad older now, but wiser, hopefully. And basically I had a run of about 10 years of running a real estate business that really grew consistently every year. And it seemed like nothing could go wrong, where sales are going through the roof every year, numbers and adding people to the company and so on. And after about 10 years, we hit a point where everything just collapsed. Like a lot of people in the real estate industry in North America and around the world. It was just a case of a bad time to pick to grow, and unfortunately 10 years I had taken a lot of risks that worked out perfectly, and I thought I could do no wrong, and geez, this is easy, this whole success thing. And then I went through a period in the next 5 years of two different business closures, that one and another one, and suddenly I'm thinking, wow, okay, maybe this isn't as easy. So that being said, it gave me an opportunity to explore new avenues and really dig deep down into my own life and how I wanted to change things and how I want to live going forward. So overall, it worked out very well. There's been ups, downs, but I wouldn't trade it for a minute.
If you had to give a piece of advice to somebody about it, do you think that there was a way to insulate yourself against, we can't help the economy and all that kind of stuff, but do you think that if you had prepared or planned in some way that you would have been able to avoid having to close, or do you think that that's just part of the risk of being an entrepreneur?
The biggest problem that entrepreneurs have is we've ingrained into our mind that we have to be confident. Like we can't let any sort of seeds of doubt sink into our mind whatsoever. So that's great. It's good in a lot of ways because it allows us to keep going and to persist through difficult times. The problem with that is there's times when that becomes almost like rose-colored glasses, and you end up buying into your own press a little bit. And I think that's what I ran into, where absolutely nothing had gone wrong for a decade. I mean, it was a lot of work and I worked my butt off, but everything, all my big moves were working out perfectly. And your head grows with that, and there's a very fine line between probably confidence and ego. And I may have shifted a little too far one way, and that cost me. So it's great to be positive, optimistic, and so on. I certainly wouldn't want to recommend that you don't want to do that, because that's the trait of an entrepreneur. But there has to be a little something in there that also holds you back at times and says, is this the right thing to be doing? Like, it's fine to be advancing. I guess the name of your podcast and your community is a perfect name for an entrepreneur, because you always have to be advancing, but sometimes you have to be careful not to advance too fast.
Right. Very good. Okay. Very good. I just thought that was interesting, because we don't want to, deter people from advancing, but we also want people to learn from our mistakes, right, and to grow smart. So
I don't want to scare audience either and scare people away from entrepreneurship. If anything, I would tell your audience that I went through a couple big major challenges, and I'm here today. I'm living, I'm breathing, I'm having fun with my new business. I'm talking to you. I'm meeting great people every day. So I lived. It's not like it was life or death. It's just if I could go talk to some entrepreneurs and give them that advice, that would be a piece of advice.
So cool. Very good. Well, Marc, share with our audience now, what drives and motivates you every day in the business that you have now?
Well, I've got two major things that drive me every day. The first thing, my new business, I coach coaches basically. So I help coaches build successful businesses, and that's my passion. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but with my daily podcast, I'm speaking with successful coaches every day, and I'm getting to share those insights and that education and that motivation with other coaches. So I have a real passion to help coaches build stronger businesses where they're happier and they're having more fun doing business. My second piece of motivation that really drives me is I have a 6-year-old son, and my son was what got me through that challenge with the business closure that I was referencing, because that happened back in 2009 when my son was about a year old or a little over a year old. And if you want to talk about motivation, anyone who's watching that has children knows that that's the ultimate motivation. Anytime that I felt like quitting or I felt like just giving up, I gave thought to my son, and I thought, I can't give up because of him. I have to keep going. So I hear people sometimes a little bit nervous and say their 20s about having kids, like, well, I want to build a business, and they're holding off. And I say to entrepreneurs, I say, if anything, kids are great for your business because they're the perfect motivation. You're not going to sit on your butt on the couch if you know that you have to feed your kids and you have to build something for them.
Right. It puts a lot of things into perspective. I think with my kids, I will never forget this one time when I kind of taken a risk on a business venture, and the bank account got very, very low. And I literally had like checks coming in the next day or two, but I was so stressed out. I was like standing at the counter making my son's lunch for school. We were sending him off to school. And I turned around and my kids are like oblivious. Like they're perfectly happy. They're a great example of just living in the moment and just staying there and like, everything will work out. You know, it'll come together. And I was like, okay, just breathe because you're doing this for them. So very good. I love that. Well, tell us a little bit about you've shared with us a little bit, but what led you into the business that you're in now?
Well, when I started business coaching, it came from basically getting back on my feet after the business closure and deciding, where do I want to go now? What journey do I want to take on? And what I decided is that I'd been coaching for years. I'd always been coaching my salespeople, my employees. And so I was basically a coach all my life. I just didn't define myself as a, quote, coach. So I knew when I got back on my feet that I really wanted to share my message and help others. I have a real soft spot, I think, for the underdogs and for entrepreneurs and people that have the odds stacked against them, because I think that they get crapped on a lot by society that they shouldn't be. I think, they deserve a lot more credit. So I said, I want to be a coach. I want to help entrepreneurs. And that's where I started my coaching business. Where it shifted into working specifically with coaching coaches is coming out of the gate. I found it really difficult coaching entrepreneurs. I thought, I'll have as wide of a net as possible. I will coach anybody who considers themselves an entrepreneur, and there's tons of people out there that need that service because there's so many entrepreneurs. And in our business, I find it's not always the best way to do it, to have too wide of a target market. And I realized that I needed to niche down and focus on a certain segment of entrepreneur. So it was right around that time that I started talking to a lot of successful coaches, reaching out to people all over the world and basically saying, hey, can we connect on Skype for a few minutes? I'd love to pick your brain on what you're doing to create a successful coaching business. So every day I was talking to a couple different coaches from all over different continents. I was waking up at weird times and everything else. So a couple things happened at the time. As I was talking with those coaches, I was implementing things in my coaching business. And then I started to get more clients who were considered coaches rather than entrepreneurs who were in various fields. And it kind of came together at the right moment. I decided, you know what, I need to narrow down my niche. I enjoy working with the coaches that I'm working with. Plus, I'm getting all this advice from people that I'm talking to every day, successful coaches. Why not also record that as a podcast and do it that way so there's value to coaches as well?
So very good. I think you make a great point about if you're looking for advice in a certain field, reach out to other people. Generally speaking, especially I'm going to be a little biased and say, especially in the entrepreneur world, people who are successful with their business, they don't mind giving back. They don't mind mentoring other people. So I love that you were really proactive and just started asking for advice. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and technology really helped. It would have been much more difficult if I was coming up in the 80s or so, or even the 90s without technology, social media and everything, then it would have been much more difficult. But I can honestly say I don't think I've come across any coach that refused to talk with me. Now, some coaches are like, Mark, I'm swamped. Can we push it back a couple months? A good example, I reached out to John Lee Dumas, who hosts Entrepreneur on Fire. You probably know that podcast. It's a top business podcast on iTunes, super successful. And I reached out to John, and we connected on Facebook, had a number of chats over time. And then when it came time, I decided I wanted to do a podcast. I'm like, I know the perfect guy to talk to because I've been talking to him about entrepreneurship off and on in the past as well. So people are always willing to help out, and you shouldn't be afraid to reach out to other people.
I think that's a great takeaway. Excellent. So tell us, how do you you're out coaching other people. How are you surrounding yourself so that you can continue to move forward with other entrepreneurs? Where do you plug in to get your support and brainstorming and feedback from?
Well, I have a rule. I generally don't associate with negative people, which is, I hope that doesn't come across as snobby, but you have to be really mindful of protecting that bubble that's around you. And especially as an entrepreneur, a lot of people that are in your life locally and on the ground, they're probably not entrepreneurs. So they could be family, friends, they're working 9 to 5, and they look at you like you're nuts. They're like, oh, you don't get paid every week or every 2 weeks at the same time. And, ooh, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? And that's scary or whatever. And you have to be very careful to not let that sink into your mind, because pretty soon if you surround yourself with people like that, then you're going to start to have doubts, and it's definitely going to make it difficult to succeed as an entrepreneur. So what I think is very important is I'm in a number of mastermind groups, and a lot of the people I deal with are from away. People who are all over the continent and not even in my time zone in some cases. And I just had a call this morning with a coach that I deal with who's in Iowa, and she's been a great resource. Half an hour on the phone with her, I'm just bouncing off the walls. I'm ready to go because she's so positive and she's challenging me. I'm telling her a goal I set, and she's like, that's a great goal, Mark. Why don't you push it harder? Like, let's go 50% further than that. And I'm like, wow, I hadn't thought of it that way. So definitely don't associate with the negative naysayers, and make sure the people that you're associating with are positive, uplifting people.
So I think it's exactly what you said. It's about protecting that bubble of energy. I mean, having the business and the family and everything is enough of a drag. My favorite question that I've been asked in the last couple months is, why do you work so hard?
I work so hard because I enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work. I'm part of the 5 a.m. club, like Robin Sharma and some others call it, where I'm up at 5 a.m. and I'm up till usually around midnight or so, and I'm working most of those hours. Like, I'll have a laptop on in the evening and things like that. Not saying that's necessarily the best way to do it. I know you have to take a little bit of personal time and everything else, but I don't think of it as work at all. Like, I have some friends that are like, oh my God, you're working on that still. Like, why don't you come out to the movie? Why don't you do this, do that? And I'm like, no, I got to get this done. And it really energizes me. So I'm the type of person that I find I have more energy now with everything on my plate. I'm working 80, 90 hours on this with the podcast and the coaching that I'm doing. But I have more energy now than I had when after the business closure, suddenly everything stopped, and it was like going 100 and some miles an hour, bang, to a dead stop. You'd think, oh, maybe you'd have more energy. I didn't.
Yeah, because it's very stressful. So, no, I love that. I love it. That was my favorite question. Why do you work so hard? And I'm like, if you're asking, I can't explain it to you. So, because I'm more like you. I'm doing it because this is leading somewhere, and because I'd rather be doing this than, sitting around or whatever. So cool. Well, tell me about a time, Mark, when you were chatting with your mastermind group, or like you talked about this gal that you talk to, an accountability something, and somebody gave you an idea or a pivot or a shift, and you were like, oh, that's exactly why I connect with other entrepreneurs.
I had an instance back after that business setback that I went out for coffee with a great local entrepreneur, and I've had him on the show. His name's Rivers Corbett, and he's awesome. He's a serial entrepreneur as well. He started a Relish, a gourmet burger chain here, so they're opening up a bunch of restaurants. He's doing a ton of stuff for businesses. And when I sat down with Rivers, it was the first time I met him face to face after that closure. And he just explained to me some of the challenges he went through. He had been through some similar things with business closure and everything. And after an hour-long chat or so, like my mood was instantly through the roof, because I finally realized that, hey, there's nothing wrong with going through a business closure. You shouldn't wear it as a scarlet letter. It's in a lot of ways it's a badge of honor, because it's saying that, hey, you went for it, you tried something big, it didn't work out, but you learned something from it. And I know there's a lot of cliches that people have heard a lot of times, but I really think that it's true. And with Rivers, it was huge because he made me realize that it's almost a rite of passage for an entrepreneur to go through that big failure, and then you learn from it going forward.
So very cool. It's easy to personalize it. So what a great perspective on it, that it's yeah. So cool. Well, tell us where has that led you? What's going on in your business now? I want you to share with our audience what projects and stuff you're working on, what they should be watching out to see coming out from you.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, I have a daily podcast, and that's been a big focus of my coaching business, going hand in hand. It's called Natural Born Coaches. Please go to iTunes and subscribe and all that fun stuff. I'll put a plug in here. So Natural Born Coaches is a daily podcast. It's released every morning. And in the podcast, I'm interviewing a successful coach from all around the world. Any niche. I've talked to coaches who are teen experts, coaches that are business coaches, life coaches, some different fitness things. So there's some really different niches that coaches can still learn from. Because I think that regardless of who you coach, you can learn from other types of coaches who are building successful businesses. So the podcast just launched on November 17th, and the reaction's been far above, exceeded what I expected. We hit iTunes new and noteworthy within a couple days. We had a great launch team that went in there and supported it. And then I looked at our download numbers, and they were about triple what I expected for a new podcast, which was just like huge. Like the day that we hit new and noteworthy, I woke up at 5 a.m. and a friend had sent me a screenshot. Hey, look at this, and of myself in there with all these other great podcasts. And I was like, oh, wow. Like I thought if it was going to happen, it would be 3, 4, 5 weeks, if I was lucky to get in there. So the podcast has really caught on, and we have a lot of growth planned with it, but I'm really having a lot of fun with it. And it's just, it's so much fun, and I'm learning every day as well, because these coaches are telling me things that they're doing, and it's just been a blast.
Awesome. Yeah, it's totally awesome. I'm enjoying the experience as well. So very good. Listen, audience, Marc is going to send us all the links to his podcast, his website, all that kind of stuff. So go to I Am Advancing, hit up Marc, M-A-R-C, in the show notes page, in the search bar rather. His show notes page is going to pop up. We're going to link to the podcast. We want everybody to check out what Marc has got going on. So Marc, I want to take a minute now to let the audience get to know you a little bit better. So we are going to play a little bit of a speed round called Playing Favorites.
I feel like I'm on a dating show.
Yes. Maybe I should change some of the questions.
That's right. Yeah. Door number 2.
This is like a dating show, but it's like if you are going to date other entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
So it really, like the civilians of the world, they don't care. So, okay, Marc, what is your favorite quote?
Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. That was from, of course, Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich was a huge influence in my life. It was the first self-help book I read back in high school, and that's my favorite quote.
So very cool. Marc, what is your favorite charity?
I'm a supporter mostly of cancer charities. I'm in Canada, so the Canadian Cancer Society. Both my parents actually face cancer, and they both beat cancer, luckily. So both my mother and father's experience were huge for myself, and I am a big supporter of the Canadian Cancer Society.
Cool. What is your favorite discovery? Do you have an app or a resource that you use in your business?
Yeah, by far, Audible, to listen to audiobooks, has saved me so much time, because I'm a big reader. I read usually, it's over a book a week, so I'm up over 50, 60 books a year. And I couldn't have done it without Audible, because if you have to rely on I love reading a hard copy book, don't get me wrong, but people are on the go so often in the day. They're running back and forth on the road, they're getting groceries, they're doing things. And what I love about Audible is you download it right to your iPhone, just to the app. You can listen to it if you're folding laundry, if you're doing anything, you're listening to an audiobook. I actually finished Atlas Shrugged this summer. I don't know if you've ever read Atlas Shrugged. I had a few false starts with the hard copy before because other books got in the way, and I actually finished it with help from the audiobook because I didn't have any excuse to not finish reading it. So it's a great app. I definitely recommend it. I think it's about $20 a month. You get basically 2 books credited that you can do, and it really encourages you to read because you're getting that email saying, hey, your credits are ready for this month, and you're ready to download your new book. So I would recommend people check out Audible.
Very good. Yeah, Atlas Shrugged is, if you guys don't know, it's about this thick, the hardcover. It is sitting in the other room right now because I am very much into kind of that mindset of what it represents. So I know I need to, but I haven't gotten through it either. False starts, that's a good term. I've got
Before this year, Atlas Shrugged served to, if I had to squash a spider or if I had to get something up on the top shelf, it worked out great for that. Or, but actually, speaking of Atlas Shrugged, if any entrepreneurs hadn't read that book, that book really should be required reading for any entrepreneur if they can push through it, because I know Ayn Rand gets attacked a lot politically and things like that, but if you look at the general message with it, it's a powerful message for entrepreneurs and talking about relying on yourself and not on anybody else. So I definitely recommend reading Atlas Shrugged.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. I like that. So tell us, what is your favorite song? Do you particularly have one that you use to get pumped up?
Yes. By far, it would be the theme song from Superman, the movie. Superman was the first movie that I saw as a kid in theaters, and I would challenge anybody to listen to that song just cranked on full blast before you head into a meeting or onto a call and not be motivated. It's amazing. I love Superman. I love the movies. My son loves Superman, but again, that goes down to the message of it. I love the whole positive thinking, strength, everything else that's in there. So that would be Superman's, the theme song from John Williams.
So very cool. Awesome. Okay, so besides Atlas Shrugged, do you have a favorite business book that you think our audience should be checking out?
Well, I mentioned Think and Grow Rich, and I know that probably is a common answer from guests of yours, so people are probably sick of hearing about Think and Grow Rich, but there's a reason why people mention Think and Grow Rich. So Think and Grow Rich is one that you should check out with Napoleon Hill, but I'll mention 2 other newer books I've just read several times each here in the last year or so. One of them is called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And that book is an excellent book because what he talks about is the ability to be stoic. He's talking about a lot of ancient Greek philosophy and everything, but he basically packages it for entrepreneurs. So his argument is essentially obstacles aren't necessarily a bad thing because they're helping you grow and you're going to be a better person getting through it. So The Obstacle is a Way is one of them. The second one is the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, and I've read that one several times, and that one's important because it really shifts your thinking. It talks about taking your goals, your actions, and basically multiplying them by 10. Because whatever you're doing, you're always going to have to do a lot more action than you anticipate. So a good example of my business is with social media. If I'm like, I'm going to tweet a couple times a day or so, his philosophy from the book is, why are you tweeting once or twice a day? Tweet 20 times a day. And just plaster, just get it out there. Or why are you thinking of making, if an entrepreneur says, I want to bring home $100,000 next year, why are you thinking 100,000? Think a million, and just get out of your small thinking and really expand it. So those are 2 other books I'd recommend.
Awesome. Very good. All right, Mark, I want you to share a piece of advice that you as yourself today would like to give that version of yourself that was just getting started in business. What would you tell that guy?
If I had a DeLorean that could go back in time and I could hop in, I would probably tell young Mark, don't sweat the small stuff. Because a lot of things that seem so big when they're going on, and a perfect example is with that business closure in 2009 was a big deal, and it was just felt like the whole world was coming down on top of me. And now I don't even think about it. We've talked about it today or whatever, but it's not like I'm sitting there devoting a lot of energy or whatever. It's something that happened and I learned from it, and hey, I moved on. So I recommend don't sweat the small stuff. The other thing I would say is change is good. People always equate change as being something bad. And with my own example, what I found was with change, the universe was almost pushing me away from real estate as my primary focus. And it allowed me to get into something that I'm having a lot of fun with, and I'm enjoying building this business. And what ended up happening after I got out of real estate in my market, just recently I read a media report that they're having their worst real estate market in over 30 years. And of course I didn't know that when the business closed back then, but I thought this would have been a rough patch if I had stayed in it. Would I have been having a lot of fun? So change isn't necessarily bad. I would encourage people to embrace change, look at the positive side, and see what ways you can grow when you're hit with some of those challenges.
So very good, very good. Well, Marc, let our audience know, where can they connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, the best spot's probably on the podcast homepage is naturalborncoaches.com, not Natural Born Killers, as great of a movie as that was. Naturalborncoaches.com is really the central hub, and that's where they can find out more about the show. They can see all our social media links, and then they can also learn more about my coaching as well.
Oh, very cool. Excellent. Marc, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and help our entrepreneurs advance.
Yeah, well, thanks, Annette, and congratulations on the podcast launch, because I've followed the community on Facebook, and I'm so excited to follow here with the videos and everything. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Advancing Entrepreneur. If you enjoyed it, leave us a rating and review. Not only will it make our day, you'll also be helping others find this show and advance their own careers. Once you're done, be sure to head on over to iamadvancing.com and join our community to learn what it takes to be an advancing entrepreneur and surround yourself for success. Thanks again, and get ready to advance.